Many years ago, shortly after I graduated from high school, I worked at a JCPenney store for a while. One time when I was working there, something really strange happened that I don't know how to explain to this day. For a little bit of background information, I'm a female, I was 18 years old at the time, and I lived with my parents and siblings at home. We lived in a pretty typical city in America, and the store that I worked at was in a shopping center about 10 minutes away. I was a part-time employee, and when I worked there, I would usually be a cashier. So one time, I was working a pretty typical shift for me. I started sometime in the afternoon and was getting off at 9 o'clock at night. When it was a little bit later, sometime after 8 p.m., things got really quiet in the store. I was standing behind the counter at the cash register, not really doing anything. I remember that in one of the nearby entrance doors, a woman then walked inside of the store. This woman, from what I remember, had blonde-colored hair and was wearing sunglasses. She walked up to me at the register and then said hi. I said hi to her, and the lady then said that she wanted to return something. I told her that she would have to go to customer service for that, which was at the other side of the store. The woman did not walk away though. Instead, she opened her purse and started to reach inside of it. She took out what just looked like a blue-colored shirt at first. Then she put it on the counter in front of me. I tried to tell her that I couldn't do returns here and she was supposed to go to customer service. She interrupted me though and said, "No, I want to return this." I looked at the shirt and realized that it was an athletic warm-up top for volleyball. And when I looked closer, I realized that it was mine. I played volleyball, and that was my warm-up top that I had got one of the previous seasons in school. It had my number on it and even my last name on it as well. I was so confused when I saw it. I looked back to the woman and I didn't recognize her. Then she just turned and walked away, leaving the store. When she was leaving, I finally spoke, and I asked her where she had got it from. She did not answer me and just walked out of the doors and then out of my sight. I took my warm-up shirt back and had no idea who that woman was or why she had it. After work that night, I went home and looked through my stuff. Sure enough, I did not have that top, so the one that the woman gave me was my actual one. I still don't know how she got it. I don't remember losing it or forgetting it anywhere. And how would she know where I worked, and why would she bring it to me and act all mysterious? To this day, I never got any answers. When I was younger, I used to work at a sporting goods store for a while. I played sports growing up, and I always liked them, so I figured it would be a cool place to work. And it was. I was familiar with most of the things that we sold in the store, and I also got a good discount. When I worked, I would do a little bit of everything. Sometimes I would be a cashier, and other times I would stock shelves and stuff. Our store also never really seemed to get that busy, except for some weekends and things like that. So one time I was working and I was out in the store, mostly restocking shelves and things like that. I had moved all around the store. By this time, I was in the far left side of the store in one of the aisles. These were the aisles where a lot of sports equipment was. The store was not really that busy. Just a few customers were around here and there shopping, and I think it was me and 3 other coworkers. So as I was over there, out of nowhere, I saw this baseball come rolling into my aisle. Obviously, we sold baseballs, but I didn't know why one would be rolling towards me. I went over and I picked it up. That's when I saw another baseball come flying in my direction. It missed me and hit one of the shelves in the aisle that I was in. I realized that somebody had thrown the ball in my direction. I looked around but couldn't tell who had done it. They must have hidden or something. I called out asking who did that, but nobody answered me. I then went back into my aisle, hoping that it was just a one-time thing. Well, it wasn't. Not even 30 seconds later, another ball came whizzing into the aisle, also hitting a shelf, and thankfully not hitting me. This was dangerous, and I felt like I had to stop whoever was doing this, so I walked back out of the aisle and looked around again. I started walking around the nearby area and looking all over the place, but I couldn't find anyone. Eventually, I saw a customer, but it was an older lady, and I didn't really think that she had done it. But I did ask her if she had seen anybody with baseballs or anything. She said no, though. I went over to the baseballs, and nobody was in that aisle. So after that, I went up to the front of the store, and I told my coworkers about it. None of them had seen the guy or anything, so I asked them to be aware if they saw somebody with baseballs or something. Then I went back to work in the same aisle that I had been. When I was walking over there though, I thought that I saw the guy. After passing by the baseballs again, I saw a younger man holding a baseball in his hand. I could not confirm that this was the guy, but it seemed like too much of a coincidence to me. He looked at me when I passed him, and then he turned in the other direction and started walking away. I almost said something, but I didn't. I couldn't prove that he was the guy, and he was now walking off, so I just kept going as well. When I got to the aisle again where I'd been working, I continued with my work like before. For about 5 minutes or so, things were fine. Then, out of nowhere, I heard somebody approaching. I looked to the end of the aisle. I saw the same man come around the corner, except now he was wearing football shoulder pads as well as a football helmet. He had clearly just gotten both from our football aisle, which was nearby. Then the man started sprinting, literally charging straight for me. I braced myself for the impact, and the man ran right into me, knocking me over. I heard him start laughing a little, and then he ran out of the aisle. I quickly got to my feet and then left the aisle to go after the man. I was furious now, and I knew that this was a big problem. The man continued running and turned down one of the main aisles. I chased after him, and he actually ran pretty fast. Soon he was heading towards the front part of the store. I continued behind him, and we reached the checkout area where my coworkers were. The man ran right past all of them, and then right out of the doors, leaving the store entirely. My coworkers were looking around, not really sure what they had just seen. The guy ran through the parking lot and then off the property and out of sight. He was still wearing the helmet and pads which he didn't pay for, so he had basically stolen them. We called the police and they came out and did a report of the guy. They said they would look around for him. After that, I never heard anything more though, and I never saw the guy again. I'm not really sure why he did that, but that was by far the craziest thing to ever happen while I worked there. Back in the day, I used to work at Sears. This is when they were doing really well and had tons of stores. If anybody doesn't remember Sears, they were a large department store that sold many things like appliances and clothes. It's mostly gone out of business in recent years though. But when I worked there, we would get lots of people in the store. Well, one time I was working a long day in December. With it being around Christmas time, there were lots of people shopping for gifts and stuff. It was also a weekend, so that added to it. I worked basically all day and I saw countless people. When I was finally off of work, I was happy to go home and was tired. So I just remember that I clocked out of work and then left the store. I went out to my car and then drove back home. It took maybe 15 minutes or so to get back. Then I parked my car in the driveway and got out of it. However, as I was walking up to my front door, I heard a car coming down the street, which was usually very quiet. I noticed it but didn't really think that much of it at all, and I kept going. However, as I was opening my door to go inside, I happened to hear the car slowing down. I looked over to see that the car was starting to pull over to the side of the street in front of my house. So I stopped and I kept watching it because I wanted to see what this car was doing. I did not recognize the car as a neighbor or anybody that I knew. The car pulled over and came to a stop just in front of my mailbox. Then the driver's window rolled down a little, and I saw somebody open up my mailbox and then put something inside of it. I couldn't really tell who the person was from where I was. I think it was a man, but I'm not 100% sure. Anyways, I didn't really know what this person was doing or what they had put in my mailbox. After that, they rolled their window back up and then they drove away. I went back outside, and after seeing that the car was out of my sight, I walked down to my mailbox. I opened it and I looked inside to see an unmarked envelope. I brought it inside. When I opened up the envelope, there were several Polaroid pictures in it. They were all pictures of me. The first were me working at Sears earlier that day when I was at the registers working as a cashier. I had not known that any of these photos were taken. They were taken at a distance too, so it was not obvious to me and I never noticed it. There was then a photo of me walking in the store, I think when I went on my break. And the last photo was of me walking out to my car in the parking lot after work. This was clearly taken from inside of a car that was also in the parking lot. I hadn't noticed any of them. Of course, I was very freaked out by this. I didn't know what to do about it or anything. I didn't go to the police or report it, but I did tell my friends as well as coworkers. They were all just as confused as I was. The rest of my time working at Sears, I didn't notice anything else like that, and I never saw that car at my house again. I'm not sure where the pictures are. I think I still have them somewhere, but I couldn't find them. It's been so long. But I'd still like to know why that person did that. Was it just an elaborate prank? Why would they choose me though? And they must have followed me home without me noticing. It's all very strange. At one point in time, I used to work at a clothing store in a mall. It was a smaller store and not that big, but I liked working there. The mall was nice and I lived pretty close by. The events I'm going to tell you about took place one time when I was working alone. The store stayed quiet for much of the day. We got a few shoppers here and there, but there was a good amount of time where I was by myself. I remember at one point a man coming into the store and looking around for quite a while. However, he did not buy anything and he eventually left. That was sometime in the afternoon. Hours went by and we got a few more people here and there. Eventually, it was closing time and it was my job to close the doors, lock them, and do some other things before leaving. I had closed many times before and I had a routine that I would do. Nobody was in the store, so when I closed, I locked the doors and then I started cleaning a little bit inside. I was not going to be there for too long, but just a few minutes. In the time that I was cleaning, I heard someone trying to open the doors. The doors to the store were glass and completely clear, so you could see right through them. When I looked over, I saw a man there. It was the same guy who had walked around the store for a while earlier but didn't buy anything. I took a few steps over to the door and said that we were closed. The man did not say anything back to me, but he tried opening the doors yet again. After telling him loudly again that we were closed, I started to go back to what I was doing. When I did, I happened to notice that the man was now finally walking away. So I figured that he was gone for good after that. As I kept working though, a few minutes went by. Then, out of nowhere, I heard this really loud noise. It came from the front end of the store. Then, I heard another loud noise. I looked over and I saw the same man hitting the glass of the door with something. Within its third or fourth hit, the glass started to break. I was really surprised at what was happening, obviously. And at that point, I knew that I needed to get out of there. But those were the only doors. So instead, I headed to the back of the store where we had a very small back room area. I went inside of it and quickly shut the door and locked it behind me. Meanwhile, as I did this, I heard more glass breaking, and the man was soon able to get inside of the store. I really had no idea why he was doing this, but I knew that I had to call the police, so I took out my cell phone and dialed 911. I asked for police and told them what was happening. I stayed there in the back room trying to otherwise be quiet. I did feel relatively safe back there, until several minutes after I had been in the back room, I heard the man trying to open the door. Then he loudly banged on it several times. After that, he seemed to walk elsewhere in the store. The man was inside of the store for what felt like forever. Soon though, things became quiet. I couldn't really tell at first where the man was because I couldn't hear everything that well anyways. But after a while longer, I still didn't hear anything. The next thing that I heard in the store was the police. I came out and talked to them. Apparently, the guy had left. I saw that the store was messed up and broken glass was everywhere near the front. The man ended up being tracked down though on the other side of the mall. I really don't know why he did it. I think he might have been on drugs or something. I'm really glad that we had a back room at the store though and that I was able to go in it. I used to work at a store called Marshall's. It's a store that sells clothes and a few other things. The store is pretty big and there's a lot of things inside of it. One time I was working at the customer service desk towards the back of the store. I had been working there for most of the day. By now though, it was nighttime and things had quieted down significantly. There was just one other person working with me at that point, and she was at the registers working as a cashier. We closed in probably like 15 minutes or so. I remember that I started to hear these strange noises. The first sounded like a really creepy laughter. It was very strange and I didn't know where it was coming from other than that it was in front of me somewhere. That's where tons of racks of clothes and stuff were. I ignored it for the most part. Then I heard the sound of somebody seemingly breathing very slow and deliberate. I looked around but still didn't see anyone. Sometime later, I heard the creepy laughter again. I was so confused. By now though, we closed in just a couple of minutes. I got up and walked over towards where I was hearing the noises. Nobody was there. There had already been announcements over the store speakers that we were closing, and as far as I was aware, whoever was doing this was the only person who was still inside of the store. Other than that, all the customers were gone. After not being able to find anybody and not seeing anything else, I returned to my desk. But just moments later, I heard the sound again. I got up and again quickly walked over. There was still nobody there. I was so confused and thought that I was going crazy. I kept looking around to where I was sure the sounds were coming from. Then, I don't know how, but I realized something. I looked on the shelf above a rack of clothing. There was a sweater that was not folded neatly and just kind of tossed on top. I picked it up and it revealed that there was a speaker underneath. It was like one of those Bluetooth speakers that people can use to connect to their phone. I realized that's what was going on. Somebody was playing these sounds from their phone to the speaker and they had planted it there. Why they did this, I did not know, and where the person was, I also did not know. The store was literally closing now, and they still had their speaker in the store. I took the speaker and walked up to the front end of the store to show my coworker. She was now locking up the doors, and after I showed it to her, we talked for a couple of minutes. The speaker hadn't made any kind of sound since I had found it. I thought that maybe the person was playing the sounds from outside, but ultimately that just didn't seem realistic. The Bluetooth range probably would not work that well from outside. We realized that somebody may be hiding inside of the store. The two of us then started walking around and calling out, asking if anybody was there. Like I said, the store is kind of large, so there were possible hiding places that this person could be. After a few minutes of searching, we had not found anyone. Then, I remember hearing a noise, like somebody was walking towards the front of the store. Both of us looked over at the same time. We both saw a man walking out of the doors and leaving. Neither of us got a good look at him, but this had to be the guy. After he left, we went over and looked. We saw him walking through part of the parking lot far away, and then he went out of sight. Somehow, he had evaded us, and then he left the store. I was glad that he was gone, but the whole thing still creeps me out.